Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and we are joined with my co-host Joe748 and part-time six-figure AP DoubleTime. How's it going, DoubleTime?
Pretty good, Colin. How you doing? Joe, how you doing?
Good. DoubleTime, aka Alan from The Hangover.
Yeah, so he sent us a picture of him in a costume contest dressed as Alan from The Hangover with his own 4-month-old. Is that correct?
Correct. That's last year.
So tell us how you heard about and got involved in card counting.
First heard about card counting, from like every of the movies like Rain Man and 21 and the History Channel documentary about the MIT team. I thought it was cool. Something I want to do is, because I used to play Magic the Gathering and I was like, that's pretty cool. This is a way to make money outside of, but of course, I was in my late 20s. I recently got married and I had a baby. So I was like, I kind of focused on work and providing for the family. So it wasn't something I could do for fun. Family had to come first. Fast forward 8 years later, I was more financially secure. I had a side business where I dealt with a lot of vendors who love to gamble. So we're at the casino often. And I wanted to just I got to the point where I was tired of losing. And I wanted to just have like a how can I lose less situation? And when I did my research, I found BJA and decided, just give it a shot and start checking it out and trying, testing.
When you went to these trips, how much were you gambling at the time? Like how much were you losing on some of these nights out?
Maybe 1,000, 2,000 tops. But, or I'll break even or I'll be able to win 500. So it wasn't like it wasn't a crazy amount, but for me, it was kind of it was just a waste, losing that kind of money.
So what was your training process like?
Just basically the BJ training software and videos. I didn't do anything else. I had some cards I would just run physical drills with, but nothing else outside of that. I did the mistake of taking my training early to the casino before I was ready, like everybody does. I had about 120 of those casino training hours in 2020, but ended up losing, like $3,400. The COVID shutdown actually saved my bankroll and kind of forced me to perfect my game. So really in 2021, because I was working remotely, I was home all the time. So any spare time I had, I was continuing training with the software and just counting down decks and shoes. And it wasn't until really 2022 when I started traveling again. And that's when I started, playing and realized, what, I got some money saved from COVID and is ready to go out there and do a $10,000 potential bankroll and just try and see how it works. If I lose, I'm done, but if it works, continue on.
What was your, if nothing else, emotional bankroll? How much of losing would you have handled before you would have given up?
Maybe 20,000. I would have been like,
okay.
Not for me. Even though I had the money to keep going, I would have been like, it's a bit much, you know? And that's not including the money I lost the previous year, the 3,000. So it was more of like, this is kind of my last try, like this is not gonna work out for me. That's how I looked at it as if this wasn't gonna work, then it wasn't gonna work.
What was it like? Did you tell your family you were pursuing this, and did they know about kind of your gambling losses before? Like, how did that all develop?
I tell my wife. She knew what I was trying to do. She knew I had a very entrepreneur kind of mindset, but I wasn't going to just randomly try something. And it was something to do because I was during my work trips. I could either sleep in the hotel and watch TV, hang out in the hotel and watch TV, or go do something. So I decided to go do something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I was like, well, I'm already out here. I can call my family, the kids. I can only talk to them so much, and then. Now I was like, let's make some more money while I'm out here. Yep.
Do you know what size bankroll you were playing off of when you had the $10,000 replenishable? Because if you would have lost 20K, do you know, with 20K, was your risk like 10% or 1%?
Yeah, it was probably about more of a 10, 15% probably.
Okay.
I was betting kind of high. So I was green chipping. In my area, you couldn't red chip.
Yeah.
So my bet started at $25 no matter what.
Okay.
So I had
definitely some risk involved in the endeavor. But did you went back to training? Did you get to a point where you could pass test outs?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 2021, I was passing test out. I was just basically, I'm done. I'm ready. It's just that I wasn't traveling yet, and I was kind of like, well, I was doing stuff with work. I was kind of busy, remotely with the family. And when 2022 happened, I was traveling more. And then I was like, you know what? I'm already out here. I got the skill that I developed this for almost 2 years now. So I figured it was time to do something with it and just, and take a risk, take a calculated risk to see.
Yeah. And how'd that go? Like what was
very good.
I mean, I know you lost the first $3,000 or whatever. And I, I've seen your graph, seen your posts on our forum. The first, 120 hours was like, break even or losing a bit. But then what was it like when you went back at it the first, 100, 200 hours?
The first, it was actually I already had some negative variance already. I remember I lost almost 8,000 already before I started bucketing up.
Okay.
Because I was already like 8,000 down.
Yeah.
Maybe 50 hours in.
Yeah.
And somewhere close to 100-hour mark, they started just perpetually keep going up. And it was like a check mark almost. It was a hit. And then and I just continued on that. Because then at that point, when I kind of increased my bet a little, got more comfortable. But a lot of it also is, I'm in SoCal, so I have a lot of double bet games. And I had a player's card already. So a lot of these places were thinking, oh, here's this guy that's been playing the last couple of years, losing a lot of money. But in return, I came in and kind of smashed them really hard.
Yeah.
Not knowing, because I keep thinking, oh, this guy's got to lose. He's on a streak or something. And also the way I was betting, I kind of placed my bet almost like a gambler would, with pressing on certain steps. So it looks like I was pressing, and it wouldn't necessarily, even though the drop would count, like let's say the count would drop from 4 to 2, I wouldn't bring it down. I would still leave it where it's at because it was still a positive count, a true count. So and by doing that, I wasn't fluctuating my bet as much, but I just happened to win a lot. And that caused, my winning streaks to be exceptionally higher than it should be.
So what's interesting to me about that, at one point you're down 11,000 and change, but also at that point, I know the first 120 hours were not probably positive EV yet, but you still had 200 hours of play.
Yeah.
And you're down, it does take some gumption or something to stick with it, stubbornness or entrepreneurialism or whatever you want to call it. Fortunately, because your game was perfect, that second, attack was just negative variance, and then it turned around. Right. My other question is, you use a little bit of betting cover. Did you calculate any of that, or you just figured, hey, I'm willing to take the risk. I know it's a positive EV bet, so I'll, not bet. I won't correlate, or, I won't optimally bet all the time.
I calculate based on the BJA software.
Okay.
Kind of like let's say I don't jump. Like let's say I would not jump. I wouldn't jump for every true count. So let's say the first one is it's $50 on 0. At true 1, I wouldn't jump. But at true 2, I'll double it to 100. Mm-hmm. And then I won't jump at true 3, but at true 4, I'll jump to 200.
Okay.
I won't do the exact, the amount, but it's there.
Yes.
And based on the betting software, it calculated already, and then the EV and what the risk was. So I was willing to risk that, but it looked more like a natural play from someone just pressing, doing a full press rather than just adding a chip up. I did a full press instead, and it looked more natural. And I think that kind of bought the cover, but at the same time, it was also a positive game. I'm not just randomly, it's -2, I'm down, I got to throw another 100 out.
Yeah,
it wasn't like that. Yeah.
Yep.
When you were playing at these places that you had already played with your player's card, did any of the staff started to act weird, or like did anyone throw any hints at you like, hey, did you start to learn how to count cards recently or anything like that?
No, actually, they were just welcoming me back. I didn't realize until I started asking what my win-loss was with some of the cards, because I was getting a lot of promotional chips, and a lot of these promotional chips were the kind where they stay on the board when you gain them. So let's say they give you $100 promotional chips, you can ask for what color you want, and then if you win, those chips still stay there. So you can continue to play them until you lose those chips. So it's almost like real money that just couldn't cash out. And at one place, I was getting to a point I got almost $8,000 in promotional chips, just because of the time I was playing there. And I think I got greedy with them because I was doing like in their 6 deck, my max bet was like 2 hands of 500. Well, when I started getting those large promotional chips, towards the end of the shoe, I was doing 2 hands of 1,000. So using my $500 and their $500 on top, and I started doing some major wins with them. Like, that, I think that kind of got them. And I think when I think over 30K is when there was no limit to them. They said, you know what, I'm sorry, your game's so good, you can't have me play anymore. No, that was kind of, but so I stopped going, but playing radio anyways. But I still go back there once a month, and I still play.
So I know you know this because you came to a boot camp, but for anyone watching, just a little pro tip: those promotional chips, especially those ones where you play until you lose, or you play until you win. Is that what it was?
Well, no, those chips stay on until they lose. So they're not real money.
Yeah. So if you win, it rides until you lose it. So yeah, for anyone watching, look up James Grosjean's work Beyond Coupons, and he has the optimal way to play those. It's usually not blackjack, so there might be a way to eke out more EV out of any promotional chips if people are getting those. But those can add quite a bit of EV to someone's career if you're using it the right way.
For that first back off, was there any kind of lead up? Like, did you sort of sense something was going to go down, or was it just kind of came out of nowhere in there?
My actually backup was in the East Coast. It wasn't at that shop. The first backup was actually a place I was playing rated. I was getting like sick comps because the way I was betting there, the time I was playing. So it was at about 139 hours of professional career, not including that 120 of training. I don't count those.
Yeah.
But basically, I didn't realize the game there was just okay. I just, at the time, I was just playing because it was a game that was nearby me. But I got some really great positive variance in 3 trips. I won about 35K on those 3 trips. And on the last trip, I had 3 sessions. I won the first 2, and the second session was in the highlight room. I split 10s versus 6 instead of high true count in the highlight room. And I try to make it look like the pit boss and the dealer convinced me to split 10s, because I had 2 bets out, and then 2 10s came out, and I was talking to the dealer, hey, do guys really split 10s on these? And they they sometimes do. Like, you're the only one here, you should do it. So I was trying to get that make me do it, and I did, and I won both. I won all 3 hands doing that. But I think that, and also the amount I won in a short period of time on my player's card, got them to review my game, because after I came back from my 3rd session, in 5 minutes I was backed off. That
back off, it sounds like it probably came from surveillance, because you had the pit on your side to split 10s or whatever, but surveillance, they're not a part of that conversation. They're just watching your play, and they see 10 splitting with top bets out there and review it and game over. But where did you you came to boot camp? Where was that at in the whole process?
Boot camp, I had it in 2022. At that point, I was like a little over 400 hours of professional play. I wanted to start black chipping regularly, but I did want to get my game evaluated. I wanted to make sure before I do go into black chip that I really had to, prepare my game. And I figured too that using the earnings I won the previous year to basically reinvest in myself was a good investment, before I start just black chipping for no reason.
So after those 400 hours, roughly where your career was at?
Over 6 figures.
Oh, wow. Already.
Oh, yeah. No, I did 6 figures, maybe 375 hours in.
Okay. So you're up 6 figures and thought maybe I'll invest in my skills a little bit more. How did it go? I don't remember who did your test out, but how did all that go?
Joe did my test out. Nice. I asked him for a hard test out because I wanted to make sure, because I told him I even told him, hey, I just played double deck this morning. I went to play at 4 a.m. and I wanted to play just to kind of, I had lost money, so I ended up winning it all back and then some. But I wanted to test because in my regular play schedule, when I work and travel, I would work a full day, then drive to the casino, then play all night before I call it a night.
Wow.
So I wanted the test to be similar to that.
Yeah.
Because, of course, if I'm fresh, I'm going to be good.
Yeah.
I already know that, but I want I want that added stress, the added being up all night. So that's why I purposely woke up early, went to the casino, played all these hours. Then we had the whole class, and we didn't do the test out until like late in the afternoon. So by that time, I was up for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And we had to do all this training, and so that's why I wanted that test to simulate the same thing, because I want to make sure at the very least you get a positive game on your worst condition. I think I dropped the count once. I was off by one in the count, and you mispaid me. You took one of my mispays. I missed one of the mispays, but that was it. Other than that, he told me no basic strategy issues, no deviation mistakes. He said that I had a positive game, but just make sure you don't lose the count or don't lose. I told him, I'm kind of uptight right now, but you know what? I want to test it this way. I want to at least you told me that at the very least you have a positive game. So that's all it matters at that point to me.
Yeah. So according to, the teams that I've run, the standard was you can get off by running once in a shoe. So it sounds like that was within our standard. And then the mispay, you don't want to miss those, but I know Joe can be pretty gracious with his.
He did several on me. That's why I missed one. I mean, I did miss them all. I think he had several on me, so that's why I was like, I did tell him to give me a hard one. So I did tell him to make my test hard.
Yeah, I remember when you had a pretty good test out anyway, and then you told me after that, I actually have been up all night, and then I was even more impressed that the test out went so well after you'd been up for a while. But going back to, you said you wanted to get tested out when you started like black chipping from green chip. So how much were you betting max before, and then how much were you planning to bet max after?
Before, my max was 200 to 500, and not the only time I did over 1,000 is because I had those promo chips, but really 200 to 500 was my max. After the test out, my max bet was 200 to 1,000.
Okay, so when you were betting 2x500 for up until this point, you've already made over 100,000 betting 2x500. Do you remember, like, were you just getting backed off left and right, or did you have not that many backoffs in that whole time?
Not that many. 2021, 22, I only had total 10 backups and 3 trespass.
Yeah. So like, what are some of the things you think you employed to help you not get backed off? Was it just because you were kind of moving locations so much because of your job and that kind of helped, or? That
did help, but I think being a middle-aged Asian man compared to a young white man, it's probably helped out. But I don't bring all my money out. Like I'm carrying a lot of money on me, a lot of cash, but I only bring out enough to place big bets, and then I continue to draw money. So it looks like I'm chasing my bet, but I never draw attention to myself how I dress. More, I try to look as conspicuous or common as everybody else. But I do on places I know I'm gonna play big plays on. When I do try to bring my Rolex watch and my gold necklace, so that it shows that you have money, but not flaunting it either at the same time. So they don't ask me as many questions. Why are you betting? Where are you getting this money from? And when they talk to me, I talk to them. I for sure never have a problem with the pit boss and the dealers. It's always surveillance that gets me. Because a lot of times when I get backed off, the pit boss and dealers only know why I got backed off, or at least it seems like their face. They're like, "What?" Like they just come out of nowhere and say, "Color them up," And they're like, "Oh, what happened?" And then I would say, "What happened?" Like, "No, you just can't play anymore." And then that's kind of the story they always give me. And I think another one is I purposely also wear my wedding ring. And so when they ask me for ID or to make a player's card, I will say, "Oh, you know what? My wife doesn't like me gambling."
Can you just take us through your kind of schedule at night after you got off work? Like, kind of what was your approach? Like, when did you just go until all night long, or like when did you decide to quit to get sleep? Or
it depends how I feel at night. But so before I do a job, I already know where I'm going and where I'll be staying, and I research the area based on the BJA website to see if there's any good games there. If it's a job that I sometimes repeat, if I know if it's a good area, it's a good play, I'll play either before or after, as long as it's within a 2-hour drive. If it's an area where I know there's no drivable time frame, what I'll do is on the last day of the job, I'll book a flight. I already booked this in advance, of course, that I'll book a flight to another area and that I frequent, and I will play there for 24 hours. So I'll fly in, I'll fly in. So I'll sleep on the plane. I'll nap on the plane from my job. So I'll, fly out maybe like 3, 4 in the afternoon, depending on the job. I knew what time the job would end. I'll get to the airport, and I'll fly to the site. Then when I land, I'll have my rental ready, and I'll drive straight to the casino. And I usually play after 10 p.m. anyways. So as long as I get there around that time, that's my optimal time to get there. And I'll play there until they back me off. Or if they let me play all night, I'll try to keep playing if I can. If not, I'll take a nap in the car. And I'll have to change the clothes. So if I come back in for a second session, I'll be wearing a different set of clothes. And there's one place I frequent at, they don't even, because I hop tables, they don't even keep track of me, because I've asked the dealer the next day, like at 7 in the morning, hey, so how long have I been playing here? I checked the head boss. And he says, oh, according to this, you've been here since 4 in the afternoon. I mean, since 4 in the morning. But I've been there since like 10 the previous night. So I already know they weren't, as long as I'm hopping tables and I'm staying past the shifts, they seem not to care. And in this particular place, because I think because I'm playing the 8-deck pits, they seem to not really watch it. And I'll get heads up by asking them to raise the limits to $50, asking for no smoking. And then that kind of keeps people away. And if I can't ask for no mid-shoe because I don't have a player's card, but what I'll do is when someone does the player's card, I'll tell them, hey, do you want to play no mid-shoe? Because that place, a lot of people tend to jump in and jump out, and they hate it too. So they'll say, yeah, let me give, they'll put the no mid-shoe request on that person that I asked for. And so when that person leaves, I pretty much have almost heads up all night by myself.
That's smart. So you get the other player to get no mid-shoe entry for you. And what size bankroll are we talking about at this point?
My trip at that point is 40K trip bankroll.
40K, is that what you said?
Yeah, 40K bankroll when I play those
that's your trip bankroll. But I mean, I'm just thinking if you're playing $50 minimum and you're playing, heads up, so you're playing through negative shoes, you must have a sizable bankroll.
Oh yeah. No, that bankroll is about 130 because my max bet at those games are about two hands of 1,000.
Okay.
At True Cut.
Well, I've been on the internet, and so I know, according to the internet, you can't bet 2 spots of 1,000 as a card counter anymore. So you must not get any hours in. Is that correct?
That's not true. At this particular shop, I've actually played 19 hours straight one time.
Oh, geez.
Then I went straight to a meetup. Fell asleep, woke up at 2 in the morning, drove back, played another 10 hours before I flew out.
Wow.
So it was pretty rough.
I don't want to give the wrong impression that it's easy to do this. I mean, it's not. It's like I'm pretty impressed that you're getting in these hours betting that heavy. It's just drives me nuts when people are like, "Oh, card counting, you can't do that anymore." You bet over $100, you're going to get backed off everywhere, and it's like yeah, you got to be good at what you do, but you're proving that this can still be done. If you're exceptional at it, which sounds like you are.
But I think also because it's 8-deck. If I try that the double deck, I'm gone like really fast.
Yeah, and it's also like DoubleTime has, like you heard him, he was like scouting places. He's specifically targeting certain place. He's not just going to El Cortez and then playing for 5 minutes and then posting online that you can't card count anymore. Like he's searching the entire country and like zoning in on where to go. Like,
yeah, I went to El Cortez, Treasure Island, and South Point, and all 3 of them backed me off right away from their double deck. Be like, yeah, of course they did. Those are the three sweatiest casinos in the country, probably. No, that's a really good point, Joe. Like, you gotta treat it like a professional, and you truly are.
Yeah, and also it's like the whole thing of what he mentioned about like if good conditions aren't there, you have to make those conditions for you. Like what he did with the no mid-shoe entry and the bringing the person and then asking for the no mid, like doing all those things. All of those things have nothing to do with what the count is, and it means so much in extra EV value to like create good conditions for yourself if they're not there.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway is I need a Rolex.
Oh yeah. And these games too, I'll even ask for a better, a thinner cut, so I'll get on an 8 deck, the best I ever had was 0.5 on an 8 deck.
Yeah.
And I just asked for it. It wasn't like nothing crazy. The guy was like, "You want a longer shoe? Sure." And just cut it even thinner.
What's the highest count you've seen on an 8 deck?
Running 30, 33.
I got a running 50, like it was above 50. This is at Muckleshoot, and I got destroyed. those tens and aces were not coming out, but I remember it was the only time I saw a count that high. So anything that you think would have helped if you would have known it earlier in your career? How many total hours do you have now?
A little over 650.
650. And you made an awesome post on our forum. That's, I think, what spurred us to reach out to you. Where you're above six figures, right? Anything you can say? 172,000. That's going to be give or take 30,000, depending on the day, probably.
Yeah, No, most of my wins or losses are within a $10,000, $15,000 swing.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go to the casino thinking, oh, this is gonna be a great night, and then get slaughtered. Get slaughtered 15K, and then have to come back and play again. But it does swing. I'm still on the upswing right now on it, but because this year, 220 hours for this year so far. My goal is to try to get 400 hours a year, and then if I can, 100K or higher on that, because try to get seven figures by the time I turn 50, kind of situation.
Oh man, yeah, that's awesome.
So that's the long goal on it, and if I do it sooner, do it sooner. But if I hit 70 before 50, then that'd be a good awesome goal.
Anything that would have really helped you out if you would have known when you first started playing?
Oh yeah, for sure. If I'd known like the importance of rounds per hour and deck penetration, and it's basically even though players on the table don't affect their game, they affect it as just how slow they can slow the game down, or how so a lot of things that I didn't know at the beginning, and I just got all right. I'm at this casino. I'm gonna play some blackjack, without really looking at the games and kind of evaluating what was worth playing or not. And I didn't really get that until a little over 100 hours that I really focused on that. But if I had really known that early on, those first 120 hours of training hours would probably been a lot better, because I would have known not to play certain casinos or known not to play certain games. Because in places like Vegas, you're kind of forced to play these larger bankrolls than you can really bring with you. Because you're just like, I'm gonna bet $50 a hand, you only brought 1,000, 2,000 with you. Within a couple of max bets, you're gone. Or slowly just being dripped to death. With these games. So
I sent an email to Nichols and asked if he had any questions for you, and he had a couple of really good ones. One of them is, how has card counting affected the way you view the world?
Oh man, it showed me the true colors of casinos. They put this image of how come here and win. You can win too, but then you realize, if you're a winning player, they actually leave and they bar you. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and I understand it's a business, but at the same time, you see how they just take the money from unexpected people and just leasing them, and then the degenerates see, well, they're playing these tables, they just don't know that they're being just put to the ringer.
Yeah,
it's kind of sad, but that's what it is.
And another one he had is, how has card counting affected your relationships with family and friends?
I do notice a lot of gamblers, so they kind of get a kick that I'm actually beating the casinos consistently. They know I have losses too, but they see the chart that consistently I'm doing, so it kind of excites them. Like, oh, hey, it can be done, because they see it on TV, on the movies, and like, it can be done, I guess. But I know my mom, my wife, we're kind of worried a little bit, thinking, because in my family there's some degenerate gamblers, so she was afraid of falling into the bad habits, and so they're kind of scared of that. And kind of just show them the charts, kind of show them like, look, it's really, it's kind of investing. I'm placing a bet, but I'm doing it in a way where it has good odds of winning and the returns are there. So they kind of got it based on, I think when I first broke that $100,000 mark, they kind of, okay. They kind of got a little more comfortable because like, oh, at the very worst, you can only lose what you won now, because you won enough where it's like, it wasn't that bad.
Hey, by the way, I can't see it in this angle, but before I saw the picture you had in the background is from.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, it's right behind you.
Joe?
From Tales from the Felt. Right on the art.
Joe,
the art print. Sweet.
The art print, yep.
Well, thanks for taking the time to share your story. I'm excited to hear how it continues, and would be incredible to have you on if you hit 7 figures before 50.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
I think you'll reach it sooner than you think.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah, keep up the good work. And if you guys are watching and you want to learn more about beating blackjack with card counting and joining a AP community, check out blackjackapprenticeship.com. Until next time, see you later.